Can the Chicago Bears be this year's Bengals? Can Darnell Mooney take the next step into being a star receiver this year? I'll be answering all those questions and more in this mailbag video right here. What's going on, guys? I'm back with another Chicago Bears mailbag video. I'll be doing these every single week until training camp starts, which is going to happen in about a week and a half. Okay, training camp is coming by really fast now. Okay, less than 2 weeks until training camp starts. I cannot wait. There's going to be so much news to talk about every single day. So many training camp battles to discuss. So if you guys want updates on that and other stuff related to the Bears, definitely be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'll be coming out with a lot of Bears content during the off season and also into the regular season as well. And like I said, guys, today I'll be answering your questions. So I made a community tab post a few days ago, and a bunch of you guys left comments on there, left questions, and I'll be going through a lot of them and answering hopefully most of them in this video. I'll probably be going a little bit faster in pace than the last video because I only answered like I think 8 or 9 questions last time. I'll try to answer more this time, but be a little bit more brief in my answers. But enough talking, guys. Let's get on with the first question. And first question is from Jaden Camacho. Do you think the Bears can be this year's Bengals? Maybe not the Super Bowl, but at least playoffs. So Jaden, those are two pretty different questions, right? In one question, you're saying if we can be the Bengals or if we can at least make the playoffs. If you're asking me if we can be the Bengals from last year, that I don't think so, right? Because that is so extremely rare that it almost never happens in the history of the NFL. I mean, when can you name a time where a second-year quarterback with such a young roster, you know, a roster that a lot of people in the NFL thought was a bottom 5 roster in the NFL, goes all the way to the Super Bowl and, you know, comes inches away from winning the Super Bowl as well? I mean, if Joe Burrow had a few more milliseconds to throw the football down the field to Jalen Ramsey or past Jalen Ramsey to Jamar Chase, they would have won the Super Bowl. They were that close to winning the Super Bowl, and that would have been one of the biggest underdog stories of all time, right? So I think that people they kind of don't appreciate how extremely rare that is because you can't really expect things like that to happen on a year-to-year basis. Yeah, teams can go from worst to first and go from not making the playoffs, being a bad team, to being a good team the next year, but you usually don't get all the way to the Super Bowl. And also, if you look at the Bengals, what they had last year, I don't think the Bears have a lot of those things, right? Because they had a much better receiving core, obviously, than the Bears do right now. They had Jamar Chase, you know, rookie that already had a connection with Joe Burrow, basically Joe Burrow's best friend from college. They already had T. Higgins. They had other great receiving options. So that Bengals team overall was more talented on the offensive side of the football. They also had more veterans overall. So I don't think that's something that the Bears can replicate this year in a rebuilding type of year. But if you're asking me if the Bears can make the playoffs, sure. I mean, why not? Anything is possible in the NFL. People that say we're going to be the worst NFL team of all time or we're going to be a bottom 3 team, I really don't understand how they're thinking that, right? Because if you look at the Bears roster right now, I still believe there's enough talent to at least be somewhat competitive this season. I don't have us making the playoffs personally. I don't think it's going to be an extremely fun year, but I could still see us, you know, maybe sneaking in with how easy of a schedule we actually have if Justin Fields, you know, takes some steps up this year in his development. He's such a talented young quarterback with so many skill sets. I mean, we should be able to hopefully take advantage of those skill sets. We're going to have strong run game this year, hopefully an improved defense too with the defensive minded, tough head coach. So it's not out of the possibility. It's not the most likely thing in the world, but don't believe people that tell you we have no chance of doing anything this year because there's always a chance in the NFL. General Dye asks, are you concerned about the players that have gotten into off-field trouble this offseason? So this has been a topic of debate among many Bears fans over the past couple weeks, especially after Matthew Adams, linebacker, got arrested. David Moore was the latest arrest, wide receiver that we signed from the Seattle Seahawks on a 1-year deal. So we've had 3 arrests so far this offseason from new Ryan Poles signings, which obviously that's not a good look for the Bears. Okay, I know these are not major arrests. Like, these are not offenses they're committing where other people are getting harmed at all. Okay, because if you look at Byron Pringle, he got arrested for doing donuts somewhere, and the other guys, they just had guns on them, which, you know, obviously there's laws against that. So I'm not trying to be the moral police of what's right, what's wrong, but I'm just saying these were not crimes in which other people got hurt per se. So I don't think personally it's such a big deal. It is stupid for them, obviously, to be committing these crimes because if you are, you know, a player in the NFL, if you're getting this opportunity to play in the NFL, you should be on top of your game. You should be making sure you're not breaking the law, right? And it's stupid of them to be breaking the law, but these are also players that don't factor into the Bears' long-term plans, right? Like Matthew Adams, is he even going to make the roster? Who knows? David Moore, I could see David Moore getting cut before the season because we also added N'Keal Harry to the receiving core. Byron Pringle, yeah, he could be our number 2 receiver this year. He should be a big factor in this offense, but he's also on a cheap, 1-year deal. So he doesn't have any major long-term money committed to him. So I don't think this is such a big deal. These are guys that are just 1-year rentals mostly. And if this continues with bigger players like, I don't know, like Justin Fields, if he got arrested, then yeah, I'd be losing my mind. But at this point, I don't think this is that big of a deal. Dylan Stirrup asks, what advice do you have on attending Bears training camp and getting the most out of it? First time going. Good question, man. Okay. Hope you have a lot of fun, first of all, with your first time going to Bears training camp. I've been to probably, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 of these training camps, most in Bourbonnais. Last year was obviously at House Hall. This year is also going to be at House Hall, and it's a totally different experience at House Hall than it was at Bourbonnais, but it's still a lot of fun at House Hall. And probably the biggest advice I would give you is to get there as early as possible, okay? Whatever time you think you want to leave at least 30 minutes earlier than even that time, because you want to get the best possible seats, okay? You're going to House Hall, you're going to be at this historic place in front of like so many of these cool professional athletes. You want to get the best angle possible, and there's going to be a lot of people waiting in line to get those best angles, to get those best seats. So I always try to get up as early as possible, get there even if I have to wait in line. Just sacrifice a little bit of sleep. It is so much worth it, okay? You don't want to be standing behind 20 people all the way in the back and not being able to see anything. I've had that happen to me once, and it is not fun, okay? You can't really see what's going on. So get there early, get a good seat on the bleachers, or at least stand in front of the practice field where practice is going on, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Also, drink a lot of water, guys. Stay hydrated, because it is late July. It is usually pretty hot during these practices, and some people have passed out in the past, so you don't want to be passing out, okay? Eat enough, drink enough, especially during the practice, and just make sure you're good with all that. And otherwise, I would say just enjoy the moment, right? Because it is such a cool experience. Like, try not to be on your phone too much. Try to be present there, seeing what's going on, seeing what's going on the other side of the field, what's going on in front of you, and looking at the players interacting with other players, with coaches. It is just such a cool experience. So I would just say enjoy it as much as you can. All right, Paris Wilson asks, do you believe Velus Jones Jr. has a future with the Bears? Being a 25-year-old rookie will shorten the overall possible length of his career, in my opinion. Yes, that will definitely shorten the length of his career, most likely, right? Because a lot of rookies come into the NFL at age 21, 22. He's coming into the NFL at age 25, so he's obviously not going to have probably as long of a career as other guys, but you also never know, right? I mean, some guys in the NFL, they play until they're, early or even mid 30s now, even some receivers as well. And as for if that's a bad thing or not, guys, if Velus Jones is a solid football player for 4 years during his rookie contract for the Chicago Bears, would you guys not accept that? I definitely would, okay? I don't care about what's beyond this rookie contract right now. If he gives us 4 solid years of production as a third-round pick, I think that's fine, okay? You don't necessarily have to always extend every single player you draft. That's obviously nice to have happen, but he wasn't a first-round pick. He wasn't a second-round pick. He was a third-round pick, in which case, even if he's only here for 4 years, I think that's completely fine. Okay, I'll be going a little bit faster on these questions now because the video is already getting pretty long. Next question from Raul Lopez. Do you really think Ryan Poles did enough to help Fields out this season? Like, be honest. No. Well, if this guy plays like an all-pro, yes. I don't think so. Okay, to be honest, to be real honest, I wish we did more for Justin Fields this season. I'm sure we're going to do that next offseason, but I still honestly wish we did a little bit more, okay? Maybe signed a more proven wide receiver, signed some more proven offensive linemen, but I still think Justin Fields can have some level of success this year. I just don't think he's going to be like a superstar this year because of limited offensive weapons. But hopefully I'm wrong. So Hefty asks, who from the Bears are you taking from your fantasy football team? Definitely Darnell Mooney and Justin Fields. I'm obviously big on Justin Fields, even if he's not going to be, I feel like a superstar this year. He still should have a lot of upside as a rushing, dual threat quarterback as well, because I do think we're going to take advantage of his legs to some extent in this offense. And obviously Darnell Mooney, you guys already know my opinions on Darnell Mooney. He's been improving every single year. He produced last year, even with such a bad offense around him. That should continue going into this year. See the Beast Gaming, besides Mooney, who do you believe will have the most receiving yards and how many yards? So besides Mooney, I think the safest bet is probably Cole Kmet. Okay, I know a lot of Bears fans are not as high on Cole Kmet, but he should still factor into being a big part of this offense. Luke Getsy has already said so. Matt Eberflus has also hinted at that, happening as well. And, last year he had 600 something yards. I think it's definitely, realistic to think maybe 720, 730. I know that it seems like a lot to a lot of people, but if he's healthy every single game, he should be, a relevant factor in this offense, just because we don't have a lot of proven weapons, on this receiving core. So I'm going 720 for Cole Kmet. Tommy Crocco, can the Chicago Bears stay in Soldier Field and build Soldier Field a dome in future? Justin Fields, lots of touchdowns, less turnovers. I don't think we're staying in Soldier Field in Chicago at this point. The city has made a bunch of efforts, but they haven't really made any significant changes, and the dome is not gonna make the Bears want to stay in Chicago. Okay, obviously Arlington Heights has a lot of things that Chicago can't offer right now. They have a much bigger stadium, much bigger property, and the Bears get to own the stadium there in Arlington Heights too. So I definitely think they're moving to Arlington Heights, but it's not going to be a bad thing, guys. I mean, we're going to have such an enormous stadium with so many more people in the stadium and better facilities. You won't have to wait in line for 2 hours if you want to get a water bottle. So I think the move to Arlington Heights is going to be pretty nice. The Bears fan 206, what do you think about Trestan Ebner being a gadget-like player? Yeah, that's definitely possible. I mean, he's a very shifty, kind of bulky-ish back that also has pass catching ability, so I could definitely see him being used in gadget-like roles. Depends on what Luke Getsy wants to do with him. He could definitely be used as a back split out wide even. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can use Trestan Ebner just because of how versatile he actually is. And lastly, Sammy Madia, are you as excited as I am to see the new Justin Fields? What I mean by new is now coached by a real coach, and the fact he knows it's his team, no Dalton bullshit. Yes, I am extremely excited to see that, Sammy. Like, I've been praying for that to happen after the end of last season. Having a coach, having a system in here that's actually going to be building around Justin Fields, what he does best, a coach that hopefully knows what he's doing. And like you said, he's also the undisputed quarterback #1 on this team. Last year, he had to fight with Andy Dalton in training camp over reps, which just made absolutely no sense whatsoever. Nothing that Matt Nagy ever did ever made any sense. So thank God Nagy is gone. Hopefully Matt Eberflus is the guy. Hopefully Luke Getsy is also the guy. But I'm extremely hopeful like you are. But yeah, guys, that pretty much wraps up the video. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your question. I'll be having more of these videos coming out in the future until training camp starts. And maybe also after training camp, if you guys still are into this series, leave a comment down below if you like this series, because then I will know to continue it if you guys are actually enjoying it. But hope you guys enjoy the video. And as always, bear down.